you don't have that, you have to find the source somewhere.
Alors, je vais vous poser une question très bateau, mais votre réponse m'intéresse beaucoup. Comment définissez-vous votre métier d'acteur?
I believe my job as an actor would be, it depends on the kinds of situations. The situations change from one thing to another, but essentially it's to find a truth, or what I believe is the truth, because what's the truth? So you go after what you believe is the truth. And that may change as it goes along, and you try to connect that truth of what you see in the character and what you see in the play, what the, a sense of like swallowing the metaphor of the play or the movie and expressing your own interpretation of that, your own truth. I mean, this may sound a bit convoluted and complicated, but it is the only way I have of describing it. I can't think of another way. It's simply trying to find the truth in yourself and communicate it through the character.
Alors, où êtes-vous le plus heureux aujourd'hui? Chez vous, dans la banlieue de New York, sur une scène de théâtre, comme nous sommes ici, ou devant les caméras qui sont ici également?
As I said when I came in, there's something that I saw a documentary once on Alec Guinness, who is a marvelous actor. And he came on stage and he just tapped the stage with his foot, and I thought, and he said, "This is where I feel comfortable. This is where I feel I belong." And this is the truth. As soon as he said it, I thought that's mirrored my feelings. I feel that way when I'm here. I don't feel that way on a movie set. Only in this environment do I feel comfort. I'm so glad you did the interview here. I think that helped me a great deal. I don't know if I appear that way, but I feel comfortable with you. Part of it is you, and part of it is the ambiance.
Merci. Comment travaillez-vous un rôle? On commence par le texte. Quand vous découvrez un texte, vous le lisez à plat ou vous commencez à le jouer dès que vous commencez à le lire?
I read it first, and it, for some reason, disturbs me when they give me a script and they don't tell me what part they want me for. It confuses me. I don't know why. I like to know the part that they want me for, because maybe I read the script with that part in my head, and so I don't really give the script a fair chance, a fair reading. I have my dear friend Charlie Lawton, who is my mentor and a person that I consult with, reads a lot of the material I do. He has a more objective view of it. I will read it from the character's point of view, and then I read it again. At this point, I'm interested in the whole thing being something that I want to participate in, not just an aspect of it, my character.
Vous connaissez peut-être tout Shakespeare par cœur. Si je vous donne un texte d'Othello que vous découvrez, comment vous faites?
Well, I know this text, and there's two kinds of ways to do this. One is you read and you say, I'm just going to read it for the sense, for the intelligence. I would love to do that with a play. I would love to take a play and just read it for 3 or 4 weeks and wait for the connections to take place. But sometimes we're restricted by the amount of time we have. And as I've said in the past, and I think it's an interesting idea for me when I think of it. I don't know how right I am. I may be wrong, but to me, a lot of our work is and our technique is formulated and dictated by the clock. Because we have a certain amount of time to do this, we have to learn it, we have to come up with quick answers and discovery. That's why the great actors of the past would play the same role over and over again, because they discovered as they went on, things changed. And you know, when you're playing Othello for the first time, it's one way. When it's the third time you're playing it, it's another. Like I said, we were once doing Hamlet. And the guy said, the director said, okay, we all sit around and we read Hamlet for 4 weeks, and then we present a reading of the play Hamlet. We come every day and we meet and we talk and we discuss. I said, yes. I said, here's the thing. Hamlet speaks to his father, who's now a ghost. I said, I have a question. How did he speak to his father before he was a ghost? And that is how it goes. And then you start with that. And you ask questions, and you talk, and you discuss. That's one way of working. That is a luxury. Mostly, you have to learn this quickly and hope for the best.
Lorsqu'on parle de vous, on pense à l'acteur studio. Que vous reste-t-il de ce que vous avez appris à l'acteur studio aujourd'hui?
When I went as a young actor, it was a home for me. It was an identity for me because I was accepted into a community that was a very renowned, established, almost a kind of, it had a great presence in our country, in America. I need to say this, it has 3 units, they call them. One is an acting unit, one was a playwright directing unit, and the other was a plain directing unit. The acting unit, of course, was the mainstay of the actor's studio. That's why it's called an actor's studio. At which point, actors go in there and exercise anything they want to do. If I want to play Hamlet, I play Hamlet. Actors who never would get cast in a part but dream to play it can go there and play it. If I want to just do an exercise about how I'm working on it, if I want to just read this over and work on this one speech, they're sitting out there. You had Lee Strasberg, the maestro, who really sees and would express and talk. And mostly I was there and I was in the back, and sometimes I would go and not understand what was being said. And then Lee would sometimes go off on some monologue about life. And I felt in general, not so much specifically what I learned from what Lee said, but a sense of being inspired by what he said, a sense of well-being about being an actor. I can't define it. This is as close as I can come to articulating. However, that was the kind of spirit in the place. And it was all free. That's the topper. It was all free.
Alors, vous semblez aujourd'hui avoir atteint la sérénité. Avez-vous connu dans votre vie des périodes moins sereines, voire des périodes de déséquilibre?
Less thoughtful, definitely unbalanced, yes. But I feel that now, like anything, when you give yourself more to things, and if I sit and talk with someone, that I'm able to do it simply because I've had practice at it. I think when we practice things, our fear sometimes keeps us from that first time. And I, for a long time, was locked up in the idea that if you show yourself, that you lose your anonymity as an actor, and an actor needs anonymity. And I believe that there's a certain anonymity that an actor requires so that the audience can accept this artist in the role. This is why I like, when I go to the theater, I don't like to go back. I go back because actors know I'm in the audience, so it would be rude not to go back. But I don't, because I want to hold on to the illusion that the actor has just given me. When I go backstage and see the actor, it somehow tarnishes the illusion. However, lately, I was watching a documentary on Picasso, and Picasso does this thing where he paints, he does a sketch of someone, and he completely does it in a minute. And it starts off as a flower, and it turns into a woman. And it's extraordinary. And he finishes it, and he stands next to it like this, and he shows it. And in that instant, you see the separation between him and the painting. It exists unto itself. We just saw him make it, and yet it has its own life. So I thought, well, maybe in a way that's the way it is in acting, that you can see this way, but when you see the character, that takes the focus. Because shortly after visiting the actor backstage, after I saw the performance lingered afterward. I retained the performance more than I retained meeting the actor.
Alors, est-ce que vous pensez que, comme beaucoup de gens, vous avez été déterminé par votre enfance? Vous avez eu une enfance un petit peu difficile. Je crois qu'à 12 ans, vous étiez inventé un passé qui n'était pas le vôtre.
I would do that. I would make up stories. Partially because I was, as a child, my mother worked, and I stayed with my grandmother and grandfather and my mother. And at the neighborhood, we lived in the back, and where I came from in the South Bronx, my mother and my grandmother couldn't look after me and living in the back because they couldn't see me out the window. So I was a bit cloistered early on. So my mother would take me to the movies. So my sense of community and relating came from cinema, because I would remember the characters and go home, and the next day I would act out all the parts. So I got used to that. And then when I first started to go out into the streets, I was younger than 12. I was more like 7 or 8. I was a bit of a mystery, a kind of exotic to the kids. But shortly after the first year, I was a part of the group and the gang. And
On vous appelait l'acteur très tôt.
I would think so, because also I always thought I might have also been influenced by an aunt that raised me for a time, who was deaf. At a very young age, I communicated and animated in order to communicate with her. I think that might have had something to do with it, and certainly my mother taking me to the movies did. But later on, I was able to just make up stories and get away with it, because I wasn't around that much, so I could come with anything. And then that was just a short phase. It was gone. And I'm very grateful to my upbringing in my neighborhood, because it was there that I think a lot of things were learned and formed, because I had a lot of bonds and friends, and we grouped together, and they were all such a variety. It was a multicultural place. It was a lower middle class, but it was a melting pot of all different nationalities. So it was interesting to be influenced by all that variety. I think that I grew up with that sense of other worlds besides my own.
Est-ce que l'absence de votre père vous a pesé? Est-ce que toute votre vie, vous avez recherché un père?
Well, they say that that does happen to you. I was fortunate that I had a grandfather who was there with me, because my grandmother, my grandfather, and my mother raised me. So he was there, and he was a tremendous influence in my life, and someone who I loved and admired a great deal. And I think that saved me a lot. I do think there could be a missing link. And yet at the same time, you know, there are certain disadvantages to that, but there's also certain advantages. I have seen my father from time to time, and I see him recently, and I enjoy seeing him, and it's nice to see him and talk to him. I enjoy him, I like him, and I think that's good. The rest of my family is gone, so it's nice to have that.
En dehors de votre grand-père, vous avez passé votre enfance avec beaucoup de femmes. Est-ce que ça vous a aidé plus tard à mieux comprendre les femmes?
Well, as someone once said to me, it gave me a high tolerance.
Très bien. Alors, vous êtes très discret sur votre vie privée. Je ne suis pas là pour vous poser des questions sur votre vie privée. Vous nous avez dit tout à l'heure, vous aviez une fille de 8 ans. On vous a prêté beaucoup d'aventures amoureuses. D'après ce qu'on dit, vous n'êtes pas marié. Simplement savoir si tout ce que je viens de dire est exact.
It's all true.
OK. Alors aujourd'hui, les paparazzis chassent les stars. Est-ce que cela vous fait peur?
At first, it was beyond belief for me. I didn't understand it, and I found it incomprehensible. But after a while, you start to figure it out. For instance, if I come to this city, which I love, Paris, I want to walk around. It means a great deal to me to walk, to go to a cafe, to meet people. It is impossible to do that right now because I'm here, of course, because of the movie, and I have a lot of attention with the paparazzi, so they follow you everywhere you go. So it's hard to really let loose and see the city in the manner in which I am desirous of. But I'll find a way to get away from them. I'm working on a plan right now as we speak. So you find and figure out a way to do it. It is a strange phenomenon, and I don't know how long it will last, but here it is.
Vous vivez comment? Vous vivez entouré de beaucoup de gens? Est-ce que vous avez beaucoup d'amis autour de vous? Je crois savoir que vous vivez aussi avec 5 ou 6 chiens qui vous entourent.
I live in the outskirts of the city, not very far from Manhattan. I enjoy the company of people and seeing my daughter and her friends and having, the times we have and the friends I have for many years. Of course, being New York and people I've known since I was a teenager in the city. So that is a comfortable thing to look at people you've known all your life. It helps me. Of course, I have a lot of friends in Los Angeles who I love to see, and I try to get there as much as I can. My dearest friend, Charlie Lawton, is in Los Angeles. So I go there as much as I can in Santa Monica. But mainly I live in the outskirts of New York, and I go to New York City every day. That's my schedule.
Et la compagnie des chiens, c'est vrai?
I love animals. I love them because I have a kind of property where they can go and roam, and I enjoy them. They of course I have to keep them fenced in because in the neighborhood they don't like the dogs running around. I had to learn to deal with that. But I enjoy animals. I enjoy the way they are, their innocence and the way they are. And sometimes I take them into town, but I try not to because they're used to the country, so they like to,
Alors, vous tournez pour les majeures compagnies américaines. Est-ce que vous prendriez le risque de tourner pour des indépendants, voire pour des producteurs européens?
What's interesting about independent pictures, and what's interesting is what's happening in our movie business is, to me, a bit of a contradiction. I don't quite understand it, but I'll talk to you about it as much as I know. When I started in The Panic in Needle Park and in Dog Day Afternoon and Serpico, these were more socio-political pictures that were done by studios. So I came from that a movie is a movie. Like Sidney Lumet once told me, I said, I'm going to be doing this play, but it's a play, and I'm doing it on film. He says, if it's on film, it's a film. If it's on stage, it's a play. It's film, even if it's a play, it's a film on film. So I feel that today, independent films are hampered. It's wonderful when they have a vision, and the director has a vision and follows to the vision. It is a wonderful thing because you can feel the filmmaker speaking and reaching you. So he doesn't need pyrotechnics. He doesn't need more money to make this picture. He so knew what he wanted to say, that he could say it in this context. Sometimes independent pictures could use the help of financing. I know if I make an independent picture, that I wish that I could, in order to express a certain idea, I wish I had more time and more money to express it visually. But I can only get this, I can get that, and I gotta go. So that does curtail you in a way. It's like I said earlier when I said, in a lot of ways, the clock is dictating our techniques. But there's room for everything. I like that. There's room for everything. I like to My daughter took me to see Men in Black. I was astounded by this movie. She saw it the third time. I was so frightened that she was, "It's all right, Dad," she's calming me. So it's great to see this stuff. It's amazing what they do. It's a show, it's a spectacle. I think we have a lot more spectacle today than we have in the past. I think that's good, but I think there's room for other stuff too.
Êtes-vous intéressé par le cinéma français?
Of course. Oh, sure. I've been inspired by French cinema. Sure. And what I have to do now is I found that over these last year or so, by doing my own pictures, I'm making a picture now myself, and again, an experimental type picture, where I find myself immersed in the making of this picture and trying to find a way to make it.
C'est Chinese coffee?
Yes. And it's baffling to me at this point. So all my time is spent trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this thing. I'm almost afraid to go to the movies because I see the movies, I'm so impressed with them that I can't go back and look at my movie. So I must go see more pictures that are out there.
Je crois que pour jouer le Parrain 2, vous avez d'abord refusé une valise de dollars que le producteur vous proposait pour vous convaincre alors que vous n'étiez pas très chaud. Et ensuite, vous avez accepté le rôle, mais pas pour une somme inférieure. Ça veut dire que l'argent, pour vous, n'est peut-être pas comme pour tout le monde, parce que beaucoup de gens auraient accepté la valise. Que représente l'argent pour vous?
Well, they kept raising the price until Francis, who was not involved at the time, came in and said, I think that if you gave him a good script, you could stop him there. So I think I am lucky in a way that I have, that has never been an issue with me. And I have been very lucky because I've been very poor my young life. And now I have means, real means. I have real money. So I feel not that much different, except the thing about not having money is it's boring, finally, to have to always be thinking about money. It's debilitating. As Orson Welles once said in a documentary, at the end with him, what finally was doing him in was having to try to raise money for the movies. And I can understand that can become, it's even now when I use my own money to make my pictures, it starts to get, it's draining, because when it's coming out of your pocket, it drains you. But I've been lucky. I have gotten through that. And I try, as we're talking about the devil picture, I try to resist the temptation of the office and try to keep my eye on why I wanted to do this in the first place. Almost like a kind of mantra, because I think it does, you need to do that from time to time, because you can get carried away with so much of the so-called perks of the celebrity.
Alors, pour garder l'équilibre toujours, est-ce qu'il y a une philosophie, une religion qui vous aide aussi? Est-ce que vous êtes croyant, catholique, comme le sont vos ancêtres siciliens, bon nombre d'entre eux?
Well, I was born a Catholic, and I feel that there is something about that is in me and in my relationship with God that I feel has sustained me through so much. I think it was very close to me when I was so struggling and in so much of need, regular things like shoes, and I think that was there for me at that time. It helped me through it. So I believe that somewhere within me there's a sense, a spiritual sense of religion. I don't go out and practice it, but I see manifestations of it in life all the time. I sort of look at things, a juxtaposition with that. I sort of use it as a balancing, as a barometer, from, even if I'm not aware of it. When I rethink my thing, you know. I'm a Catholic boy, you know.
Alors, est-ce que votre agenda est très chargé? Vous terminez de Chinese Coffee, ensuite, vous savez déjà ce que vous allez faire?
I'm not doing anything, and I feel really good about not having anything in no plans in my future, except for Chinese coffee, which I will be, dealing with.
Je vous remercie beaucoup de nous avoir accordé autant de temps.
Merci.
Je crois que c'était assez rare de votre part d'avoir parlé de
Merci.
vous. J'ai encore 2 questions à vous poser avant qu'on regarde Hit, où je vous laisserai présenter le film. Et la dernière question habituelle de cette émission, qui s'appelle « À part ça », eh bien c'est tout simplement, après ce que nous venons de dire, à part ça.
Oh, apart from all of this, I can try to. This is the point of the show where I will try to be glib and funny, and I should resist that because whenever I get the urge to be funny, as Oscar Wilde says, I just lie down till it passes. So I'm not going to. I try to be Robin Williams sometimes, and it always gets me in trouble. I can't pull that one off. So I just say, buona fortuna.
Merci. Alors nous allons regarder Hit maintenant. Je sais que pour préparer ce rôle, là aussi, vous avez rencontré le vrai flic de l'histoire.
Yeah. See, those are good, tangible things, like getting to see the real cop and hoping that somehow there's some residue left after meeting this guy. I think most actors work in this manner because it's available. Especially when you get into a certain position and you're well known and people sort of will take you in, it's amazing the kind of cooperation you get from people. I can't even tell you the kind of people I've met in my walk along the wire. So I did for Heat use someone, yes, and they really bring you in and they become very interested, and what you hope will happen is you'll retain it.
On va regarder Hit ensemble. Vous pouvez ajouter 2 mots sur le film?
Actors in it are wonderful. Robert De Niro is wonderful in this picture, as is John Voight, and all of them, Diane Venora. I think that Michael Mann really directed this well. I think it's an example of why I don't like to call myself a director, because when you see that, and people like Martin Scorsese and Michael Mann and the real people of the cinema here in France, and all the directors, you really, I start to feel like a dilettante, and I would rather say this is an example to me of really fine direction. And there's a small thing. In my character, there was a scene where I sniff cocaine. He's a cop, and every once in a while, he chips cocaine. I based my whole character on that. So that is why some of the expressions that come out are sometimes, but that scene is not in the picture. So that alters the perception of the character. Now, that is out of my control. And that is an example where you do that. So sometimes that happens, and sometimes it works the other way. You do a performance, and the director says, I put this here, I put that there, and something that you never dreamed of comes out, and it's better than you could ever have dreamed of doing. But I think this is an advantage, because now, if you're seeing the picture, you know that every once in a while, if my actions get a little too berserk, you know he sniffs a little bit. This is a wonderful opportunity.
Merci.
Merci.
Merci de nous avoir donné ce scoop en plus.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. I've never talked so much in my life.